And welcome back to Katana TCG. In this week's early deck preview, we're going to be looking at a Pokemon with a really cool hat and a really cool attack. Hisuian Decidueye VSTAR. Let's go. When it's time to flex on your opponents in Top Cut this season, or even just upgrade your TCG accessories, make sure you're checking out inkgaming.com. They have a wide variety of custom playmats, custom dice bags, face masks, as well as mouse pads too, and a grip of sleeves and dice and deck boxes, all your TCG accessory needs. And you can use the code DADSPOD10 at checkout for 10% off your entire order from inkgaming.com. Your game, your style. Hisuian Decidueye V, 220 HP fighting Pokemon, weak to Psychic, 2 retreat cost, has Mountain Hunt for 1 fighting energy. Search your deck for up to 2 cards, put them into your hand, and then shuffle your deck. Already super duper powerful, being able to go into your deck and grab any cards is super sick. Obviously we have things like Marnie in the format, which could make it very difficult for us to kind of hold on to those resources, but right off the bat, that is a super powerful attack. And then for 1 fighting and 2 colorless, point blank shot deals 100 damage, and this attack's damage isn't affected by any effects of your opponent's active Pokemon. And I really think that just the V alone has an incredible amount of merit, which proves that it could be a great secondary attacker in other fighting decks in the future. Hisuian Decidueye VSTAR, 270 HP fighting Pokemon, weak to Psychic, unfortunately, and a retreat cost of 2. He's got a really cool hat. I don't really think there's anything else to point out. Other than the attack, 1 fighting and 2 colorless, you do Somersault Feathers for 160 plus, and you may discard up to 3 energy cards. This is just energy. This isn't basic or special energy. This is all energy. From your hand, this attack does 30 more for each card discarded this way. A 90 damage buff without Choice Belt makes it swing for 250. That's pretty substantial. I think in a format like this where the HP is coming down, I know we've talked about this before, but you're able to take one-hit knockouts with things like Choice Belt attached to this Pokemon, and I think that that is pretty busted. So its VSTAR power, its ability, a roaster. I don't know if that's a play on rooster or if I'm just pronouncing it wrong. I don't know. He's a bird. During your turn, you may draw cards from your deck until you have 8 cards in your hand. It's like a boosted Karina's, a built-in Crobat, +2. I like it, I think, because it is the only VSTAR Pokemon we play in this deck. It's a pretty busted ability to have. You know, drawing cards is never a bad thing. And speaking of drawing cards, we have elected to go with a 2-2 line of Bidoof and Bibarel, and I think that this is a consistent engine. I think with Ultra Ball, we're able to thin out our hand several times and draw into our hand of 5 cards. So this is going to be our draw engine of choice. Now here's where things get spicy. We are adding a 2-2 line of Gossifleur with the Call for Family attack. Search your deck for up to 3 basic Pokemon and put them onto your bench. Boosts consistency, and it can be used for a colorless, so let's go. And the Eldegoss that came out in Evolving Skies with the Cotton Lift ability. Once during your turn, you may search your deck for up to 2 basic energy cards, reveal them, and put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. So this automatically boosts the Somersault Feathers attack by 60 damage just from grabbing 2 energy cards from your deck and putting them into your hand to then discard and boost your attack. It's got great synergy. The Gossifleur definitely makes that a lot easier to pull off because if you start with it, you don't get punished. So let's go. Now, Hisuian Decidueye is weak to Psychic, and I think with our Energy Recall engine, we're able to pull off the Malevolent Charge on our Galarian Moltres to put this into play and swing for our weakness's weakness. And if anyone's ever played a counter box before, you know that that's incredibly important. We did tech in a Manaphy. Protecting Eldegoss and Galarian Moltres as well as Bibarel is very important in this archetype, and I think that this deck would fall even flatter on its face without all this bench support. And a 1 of Lumineon V. We play so few supporters in this deck, but we do play high Pokemon search, so I think that being able to quick ball for Lumineon to get Boss, to get Marnie, to get Clara is going to be very, very important to this archetype's core, and we also have the means to get it off of the bench too, so I think that that's also important to note. For Quick Ball, for Ultra Ball, that's really all you need. You're not doing a whole lot of Pokemon search, but it is there, and the Bibarel engine with Ultra Ball is just so good. To Escape Rope, 1 Ordinary Rod, being able to put basic Pokemon back into the bench to escape the Echoing Horn play, as well as shuffle in the basic energy for Eldegoss to grab out is key to the way that this deck is going to work. And we are playing 2 energy retrieval. This feels bad, but when you have it, you're happy to see it. When you start with it in your opening hand, you're very unhappy to see it. So it's incredibly circumstantial. I'd rather be looking at it than looking for it. But I think this is core to the archetype because we need the energies in our hand to discard, and you can rinse and repeat with things like energy retrieval. 1 tool scrapper. No one likes getting hit by Choice Belt, but I think what's more important is getting rid of things like Big Charm and Cape of Toughness so that we can take near one-hit knockouts or one-hit knockouts on all these. 2 boss, 2 research. Now we play 2 Raihan, and the reason for that being is because Raihan lets us search for double turbo energy, as well as other things, but in this deck, it is very important because Hisuian Decidueye VSTAR can attack with double turbo energy attached, and so can Luminion, and we do play a 1-of water energy to potentially turn Luminion into a 1-of attacker and being able to reutilize it again while shuffling it into the deck with its attack. 1 Marnie because hand disruption is good. 1 Clara to really punish our opponent for taking knockouts and use Malevolent Charge in 1 turn, but also it puts basic energy back into our hand, which is core to this archetype. And we're back on the Roxanne train again. I just think this card is so important, especially late game. They're going to be taking prizes. There's going to be maybe even multiple turns where you're able to shuffle them back down to 2. But I must repeat myself, if you don't get rid of the Bibarel when you use Roxanne, it's not going to be very good. 2 Training Court. We don't have a lot of abilities in this deck that get walled off by Path to the Peak, but putting 1 more energy back into your hand to discard it again for an additional 30 damage with Decidueye is very good. 2 Air Balloon because we don't want to attach energy to anything and then have to discard it to retreat. So I think that steering into a heavier balloon count is important. I understand that the block Snorlax is coming out in the Go set, which may make Air Balloon a little weaker, but for right now I think that this is the perfect pivot card so that we can prevent having to attach any energy for retreat plays. 2 Choice Belt because dealing an additional 30 damage gets us a little bit closer to that 1-hit knockout range with Hisuian Decidueye. 4 Double Turbo Energy. Decidueye can use it, Luminion can use it, and it can also be discarded to get that 30 damage buff. 5 Fighting Energy, 3 Darkness Energy, and 1 Water Energy for the spicy Luminion play. Overall, this deck really looks like a lot of fun to play. Again, it doesn't have a huge competitive nature to it as a primary attacker, but I think Hisuian Decidueye VSTAR as a secondary in other fighting decks might prove to be a little bit more effective. But this definitely looks like an archetype that would be incredibly fun to grind for hours on the ladder on PTCGO. Now let's go take a look at its matchups. So your good matchups are going to be Raichu. Even the Decidueye V has the ability to body Raichu. Has a little bit more consistency, requires a little less accessory to kind of get it up and running. So I think that we have that over Raichu, at least in this build. It really does depend on the Arceus build though. Because Arceus is weak to fighting, Decidueye does not have to discard any energy to take big 1-hit knockouts. Even with the double turbo energy attached, you still hit for 140. Multiply it by 2, it hits that spicy 280 mark. Dunsparce is in the format to assist the good old Arceus, but then we have Choice Belt to help us get big 1-hit knockouts on things like that as well. Shaman I think is a good matchup too, although it does have a bunch of healing. Discarding all the energy does hit that spicy 250, 270 mark with the Choice Belt attached, and they just don't have the HP to overcome that quite yet. I think this specific build of Decidueye has the ability to overcome things like Entei as well as Dialga and Gengar. Gengar being weak to fighting definitely helps us the most in that matchup. However, I think we just have a little bit more consistency with our VSTAR powered draw engine to kind of get up and running earlier in the game versus Entei and Dialga and Gengar requiring maybe a turn or 2 to kind of get the field set up the way that they need to be competitive. It's a 50-50 against Jolteon because we do require a lot of less than 100 HP utility to help this deck be more consistent. But on the other hand, I think that swinging for fighting weakness tilts the matchup slightly in our favor, so it's a 50-50 for me. I think the Mightyena Zoroark Stage 1 box proves to be difficult, but we don't play any VMAX in this deck whatsoever. that Mightyena can really capitalize on, so they don't get to attack for free. There are other stage 1 utilities like Galissapod in the format still for a little bit that punishes us for putting extra Vs in play. We don't play a whole lot of Vs other than Decidueye and Lumineon, so we can kind of counteract that too. Now Urshifu's got a lot of bench sniping, but not a lot of upfront damage that can directly affect Decidueye in a negative manner. We don't have any healing of sorts like Cheryl, but we do have the ability to hit like a brick and kind of tilt the price trade with the Galarian Moltres at times when we get behind on prizes, so that definitely works in our favor. Darkrai is not weak to fighting, which is going to prove difficult, but I don't think it's a bad matchup for us. I think we still have the ability to take big one-hit knockouts on things like the Galarian Moltres V and kind of capitalize on everything late game with the Galarian Moltres that we play. I think when it comes to the mirror, playing the 2 energy retrieval versus playing less than 2 energy retrieval is the difference between winning and not winning. Getting an additional 60 damage output every turn for just an item card is pretty important because the energy only needs to be on your hand. It doesn't need to be on your Pokemon. So that might be the difference between winning the mirror and losing it. Your less than favorable matchups are going to be Mew. I'm not saying it's unwinnable. We do play the Galarian Moltres to help us swing that in our favor, and there are going to be late game scenarios where we're able to pull off a couple malevolent charges at a time, making it very difficult for Mew to kind of use its primary attackers in the form of Mew, but we are eternally weak to Psychic. I think that Malamar is just not going to be a fun matchup for us at all. We don't play anything with bench sniping. I think we definitely have a little bit more of a consistency engine, being able to draw into a hand of 8 cards one time without using our supporter. But we don't play anything like Clap Stadium, we don't play Avery, and if you want to win those matchups, those would be tech cards for sure. Hisuian and Lilligant hits like a brick, and that's not going to be fun for us. Samurott is going to prove difficult as well, and getting torched by them one time with the Shuriken ability would be very, very annoying. Anything that can take one-hit knockouts is a bad matchup for us. We don't exactly have the highest HP range, and we kind of have a bad weakness to begin with, so unless something like Weakness Guard comes out, we're going to be in bad shape. So Charizard, Suicune, Palkia, Machamp, even Typhlosion just because it swings for weakness, Whimsicott because we need our double turbo energy, Ice Rider, Sylveon, Lucario, the Leafeon package, Duraludon because we need double turbo energy to kind of get this attack off more consistently, and Single Strike Urshifu. Not that those decks are going to be super prevalent in the meta going forward, but you can understand why this deck hovers around a tier 2 as a VSTAR attacker by itself. Although the archetype is very cool, I just don't think it has the ability to get over that tier 2 limit deck. Although it doesn't appear Decidueye VSTAR has a solidified place in the meta, I still think it's going to be an extremely fun deck to play. I think it'd be great to take to a local. I think it'd be incredibly fun to play for a couple hours on PTCGO just to see the plays that you could pull off and how effortlessly you could put the energy into your hand to get those huge one-hit knockouts. But if you enjoyed the video, make sure you like, comment which deck you'd like to see next week, and subscribe to my channel. I apologize for the streaming inconsistency. There have been booster box tourneys for me to attend, my buddy's bachelor party, his wedding's this week, Doctor Strange comes out, Mother's Day this Sunday. I am incredibly wrapped up in everything that I'm doing, so I appreciate you guys for sticking with me, and I look forward to seeing you guys back on my Twitch, Katana TCG. Make sure you follow and subscribe over there and check out the content that I'll have for you next week. We'll be talking about the Indie Regionals pretty heavily. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you. Deuces. Hisuian Decidueye V, 220 HP, basic samurai chicken. No, that's dumb. Hisuian Decidueye V, 220 HP, chicken samurai. No, I don't like that either.